Talking LSU football, we got Carter here as we also, on a regular basis, lean on him for some LSU and SEC knowledge, no doubt. Get on over there, Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC. And boy, talking about power, talking about this 2024 LSU recruiting class. Now, rankings aside, don't mean much right now. But to me, they mean something in this case for a few different reasons. Number one, it's LSU. So there's proven history of being able to sign these kind of players when it really counts in December/February. Number two, because we're looking at, so you're going to see a lot of teams high in the rankings right now that basically grab, a 5-star and a couple 4-stars, and they got 3 hard commits and they're hanging on by a thread. And it's not going to turn out quite that way for them. We see some oddities in the recruiting rankings at this point. That's not LSU. 11 hard commits in the door. And that there might be a defection in the group, maybe a flip here and there, but this is a great start.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's led by Colin Hurley, right? Not only the quarterback of this crop. He's not the highest rated player, but he's one of the higher rated players. He's also just the leader. I mean, he does heavier recruiting than anyone. A very interesting quarterback prospect is going to be one of the, if not the youngest LSU signee. And I know Colin. He's been on my channel, and he is just a phenomenal young man, probably the most impressive recruit I've ever interviewed. And he is just an amazing thrower of the football, like Garrett Nussmeier. And he works out with Anthony Richardson. He really gets after it, right? And there's all these other pieces, right, that look to be really good. They just got Kalaj Cobbins to commit not too long ago. They just got Ahmad Bro from Ruston, a North Louisiana player, committed. So overall, you are right, Mark. It's a really good recruiting class. But obviously, the biggest news in LSU football this past week was they lost Jamar Cain, their really well-respected defensive line coach who was at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley, went to USC with Lincoln Riley, never coached at USC, and came over to LSU to be in the SEC, goes to the Denver Broncos to coach with Sean Payton, right? And now that guy who was one of the most popular people in that building, you've got to replace him. So I know Brian Kelly would love to get another high-level collegiate defensive line coach to get him in, because there are some elite LSU defensive lineman prospects in this crop, right? McKinley's a recent 5-star in the state of Louisiana, and the player that they really want is Colin Simmons, a 5-star edge player, won his first ever state title at Duncanville. It was a very emotional state title for that program. And he could really play. There's no other way around it. He can really, really, really play. So obviously you lose Jamar Cain, who is really good at just recruiting in general. He leaves, and now you got to find someone to pick up that ground that Jamar Cain had going. And that's going to be the next big thing in recruiting, who that defensive line coach is going to be.
We're really going to dive into spring games starting the next Saturday, April 8th. Mizzou's already got there out of the way. For whatever reason, they do this every year where they just, they ramp up the spring practice and they get that thing out of the way. But everybody else in the SEC starts with Auburn on April 8th. And then we're going to get that look at everybody over the next 3 weeks. As you scan the league, what's important to you right now? What are you looking out for the next month?
Yeah, for me, Mark, I've really reevaluated how I look at spring games. As I've known more people throughout the SEC and how it's, dealt with, it just doesn't hold a whole lot of significance, right? No coach wants to give away not just their offensive stuff, but really their defensive stuff. Last year, LSU did absolutely nothing defensively. And when I mean nothing, I mean nothing. And the next year, Matt House was very exotic. So there's not really a whole lot you can take away from a spring game. And, I actually, last year got booked to do a Tigers related card show event the day of the spring game. And I'm still going to watch it. They're going to have TVs there and all that stuff. But I would probably never do that for an actual game, right? So, you can't just take too much away from just any spring game. Last year, Emory Jones, Harold Perkins, Mason Taylor, they were all true freshmen, and they weren't even early enrollees. There were guys that came in the summer, and they had not only just good years, they had iconic true freshman years in LSU history. And then there are some players who just didn't have a good spring game last year, Mark. Turned out to be some of the best players on LSU's team when the actual games really started to play. So it's a weird thing. I don't know how you feel about spring games, but it's I wish there was just some other way to do it, because when you're hitting against the same people every day, and then you got to hit those same people in front of your own fans, it's a pretty weird dynamic.
Yeah, I think we make too much out of it because it is the fans and media for the most part, the media, although they get a look 15 minutes or whatever it is, depending on
Yeah,
the team. Uh, yeah, it's blown out of proportion because we get to watch it. It's people need to understand that's going on every day for what is it, 15 sanctioned practices. So that's already going on. It's just we get to see this one. So this is no bigger than the other days of practice, number one. Number two, I tend to get excited, but then I got to check, myself and say,
yeah,
what's going to happen is I'm going to flip on the first one, which is Michigan this Saturday. And after 3 plays, I'm going to be like, yeah, this is not football. It's a practice. The networks used to broadcast these things like they were games. I'm thankful that in the last few years they've corrected that, and basically the spring game kind of just goes off in the background, and they present it as a kind of presentation or look at the team for the next season, and that's the way it should
right.
be done. Interviewing people, just talking about positional breakdowns, and just and what's running in the background is just kind of like air conditioning in terms of the game, and not announcing it like it's crucial. It's 4th and 3. What are they going to do? So I
Yeah,
think the various networks have picked up on that in recent years.
yeah, and look, LSU is. It's hard to just get enough healthy people for practice, and I don't necessarily think it's just healthiness. It's just if they feel cautious about any player, there's just no reason to put them out there, right? So let's say someone like Mason Smith, right? He's one of the best players when he's fully healthy. He's a 5-star defensive tackle, a very elite interior pass rusher. I mean, LSU's interior pass rush last year got a little stale at times. So Brian Kelly knows how important that's going to be for next year's defense. So they are going to take their sweet time with him getting full speed and ready to go. And when he's locked in, he's as good as anybody. So yeah, it's a weird dynamic, but LSU hopes everybody stays healthy. So hopefully that is the case, and we'll see what happens.
He is a great follow on Twitter. You see the handle right there, Carter the Power. It's Power Hour LSU, Power Hour SEC as well. Get there on YouTube. You're already right here. You can make it a quick switch. Just type it into the search bar. Bam. There you go. Get on over there. Check out the college football coverage from Carter. Man, we always appreciate the conversation. You know that.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon, Mark. Thank you so much.